Hello ladies and gentlemen, I'm Christian Gonzalez and welcome back to Life Lessons Inside of Movies. And I know what you actually might be thinking. Really, Christian? Showgirl? How? I mean, how? How is it that a movie that won the most Razzie Awards, that is so notoriously bad, that even those people that have never seen it know how bad it is? How is it that a movie like that is going to teach me about life? Well, you about to find out. So before I jump into it, let me give you guys a quick recap of the movie we're going to be going over today, Showgirls.
Showgirls.
So this is a story about Nomi Malone, but she goes to Vegas with the dreams of becoming a dancer. She makes some friends along the way, she makes some enemies along the way, but she scratches and claws her way all the way to the top, but then once she's there, she realizes, was it all worth it? Now, I know that's a very generic version of this movie for those of you that have seen it, but I just want to tell you guys right now that I'm not going to parade you guys or try to convince you guys that this was a great movie and it was just misunderstood. I watched this movie once and only once, but there was something that I truly admired about this movie, but it only came from watching it in the year 2020. It all starts with Paul Verhoeven and his use of satire. You see, a lot of people don't realize that with over-the-top acting and even more importantly, over-the-top plots, you can actually focus on real-world issues, whether it's the dangers of fascism, the dangers of authority, the dangers of colonizing. You see, because film and life rarely go hand in hand. That's why a lot of true stories, they have to amplify them for them to be more impactful on screen. But when you already have an over-the-top plot, you could focus on what needs to be focused on. The question is will the audience be able to pick up the message? Now, although this movie's set in Vegas, it does surround the entertainment industry, which is exactly what Paul Verhoeven was in. Think about what Hollywood was back in the 90s. Hollywood was class. It was elite. Actors were basically gods, not compared to the actors nowadays. And this movie had the balls to expose all the stuff that is coming out in 2020 back in 1995. The shady business practices, the cover-ups, the exploitation of women. So I believe a movie that is that self-aware can teach us a lot about life. Just how much? Let's jump right into it and figure out. So for a brief moment in my life, I actually tried out for acting roles, and naturally it led me to YouTube, trying to figure out little tricks of the trade and things of that nature. But one day, as I was going through the videos, I came across this one comment that said that the reason why someone wanted to become an actor was because they saw the show Stranger Things, and they saw how behind the scenes the cast actually looks like friends. Now, if you guys have ever seen the show Stranger Things, you know the cast is nothing but a bunch of kids. So I can only presume that the person that made this comment was a kid themselves. Now, I don't want to give this movie a lot of credit, although as the video goes along, it's going to sound like I am, but there are a lot more people in the United States like Nomi Malone than people choose to realize. Think about it. Nomi Malone is this young character. She believes in this rags to riches type of story, so basically, she's an American. Because every single American since the beginning of time has been spoon-fed the idea that we are the underdogs. In reality, America hasn't really been an underdog since the American Revolution. And if you guys don't believe me, go look at your history. Hitler himself didn't even want to get into a war with the United States until he was ready because he knew just how strong and powerful the United States actually was. And even if you want to look at the Olympics, there's a reason why we talk about the miracle on ice, because that was the last true time that America was an underdog. So it's obvious that she wants a seat at the table, but she also wants to be associated with those people, with those group of friends. You know, the friends that are intelligent, good looking, the friends that Hollywood always seems to portray to people. And at one point throughout the movie, she even backstabs her loyal group of friends to get to the top. But the truth of the matter is that your greatest supporters, your most loyal friends will never come when you're at the top. They will always come when you start to ascend to the top. That period in your life where you leave the group of friends at the bottom that maybe tell you, you know what, man, you think you're too good for us, but also in that great area where you're so far away in the top. That area of life where you are the most alone is that area where you will develop your biggest supporters.
You take care, kid.
You see, the two people you would least expect Okay, well, the one person who we at least expect are the two people who genuinely want to see her do well. Now, one of the most dangerous games you could play is doing anything and looking for acceptance. Nomi literally backstabs everybody to be associated with the core group of people at the top without even knowing who they actually are, and eventually it does backstab her in the end. Now, one thing that I do want to point out to you guys is that even if you do look at Hollywood, look at Hollywood and their core group of friends. What are the friends that maybe stand out to you? You got maybe Matt Damon and Ben Affleck. They've been working together since they were teenagers. You look at Adam Sandler and his core group, they've been doing movies since the beginning of time. Heck, even if you want to look at comedians, Gabriel Iglesias and Martin, they have been best friends since the hood. So see, even in Hollywood, your true group of friends, your core group of friends, never come when you're at the top. Now for ladies out there, I'm going to tell this from a guy's point of view, so I hope you guys can pick out what actually applies to you. But what I think is funny is that when you look at an older generation, you'll see older people that are paying alimony, paying child support, they're alcoholics, they hate their life. But then when you look at the younger generation is saying shit like this.
I have a problem with pussy. I always have, and I'm always gonna.
And for some reason, people never put two and two together. Like, you'll get the older generation that loves bragging, oh, back in my day, I used to nail as many girls as I possibly could. Yeah, but then you probably got mixed up with someone that you shouldn't have got mixed up with. You got married, you got divorced, they took half your shit, now you're miserable. And then the younger generation doesn't even realize that. Like, you know what? Uncle Bob hates his life. He's a drunk. Why am I going to take advice from him? Now, I say this because sex is one of the most powerful things out there. But sex can also ruin and has ruined so many people's lives. If you watch this movie, I'm pretty sure every single person knows someone that is just like James, that got someone pregnant that they shouldn't have got pregnant, and now their life is miserable. Because you see, when that happens, there are so many different negative avenues that can come from it. Maybe you end up having to get married. Maybe you work at a job that you don't like to support a family you don't want. Maybe you end up cheating. Maybe they end up cheating. Maybe divorce comes into play. Then alimony comes into play. And then before you know it, you hate your life. And you want to know where all of this can be solved? By wrapping your fucking dicks. It's not that complicated. Or even more, ask yourself before you're about to get intimate with the person. Well, when you're gonna get intimate with the person, your brain's not even working by that point. But ask yourself, if they were to get pregnant, am I gonna be okay with that? Ladies, ask yourself, if you were to get pregnant, is the guy ready, willing, and able to take care of you and the baby? Don't look at what he should be doing, or don't look at what you could turn him into. Look at what he is now. And if the answer is no, then don't do it. Guys, you don't have to nail every single girl out there. Ladies, you don't have to give it up to every single guy. Because you want to know what is more painful than going to sleep with the heart on? Waking up to someone that you absolutely feel miserable with.
You love her?
I don't know. She's having a baby.
Say soliciting. Cheyenne soliciting. Shall I read you the rest of them? Possession of crack cocaine. Assault with a deadly weapon.
So this actually might be one of the most famous life lessons that your parents probably told you about. The chickens are going to come home to roost. You cannot run away from your past. Every negative thing you ever did in your life is going to come around full circle and bite you in the butt. Or in layman's terms, karma. Now, I understand by saying that, it sounds really scary because immediately you start to think about all the little negative things you ever did in your life. But what's important to remember during this time of your life is that you have to be transparent. Now, what do I mean by being transparent? When you look back in history, or realistically just the past couple years, people that have withheld secrets or done some very shady things, when the media has gotten a hold of it, it has been instantly career ending. Rather, the people that have been transparent, that have owned up to their mistakes, that have maybe put out a statement, I understand what I did was wrong, I will be better, or maybe they even go to jail for a couple years. They come out and they redeem themselves. Now, I'm not going to say the whole world's going to forgive you, but enough people will forgive you that your life, your career won't be over. Rather, if you withhold the secrets, you're going to be blackballed, blacklisted, career over, it is done. So what's important to remember is to be transparent. Be ready for when the chickens come home to roost. Because if they come home and you're not ready, life will officially be over.
I made a damn fool of myself by using a racial epithet. I never should have done that. You lay it out, because you've got nothing else to lose.
For you, it's a documentary. For me, it's the end of my life.
This one's actually my favorite life lesson inside this movie because it involves people to be self-aware, which it really doesn't matter what day and age you live in. That's always one of the hardest things for people to do. So to narrow this one down, you guys ever notice how people get caught up into job titles? Like for instance, janitors don't want to be called janitors, they want to be called custodians. You look at strippers, they don't want to be called strippers, they want to be called entertainers. I remember when I worked at McDonald's for a period of time, there was someone there that told people that they handled money for a multi-million-dollar corporation. Yeah, you're a cashier. So you ever notice how society gets like that? How if they don't like the way something sounds, they dress it up, make it sound pretty to ease their conscience. Kind of like saying that you are not unemployed, I'm in between jobs. Now, what's important for you guys to realize with this is when it comes to things like that, society knows exactly who you are. So when you try to dress it up to make it sound pretty, the only one that looks foolish is you.
You are a whore, darling.
No, I'm not. I'm not a whore.
You know, what is it that you think you do?
So it's very important to be self-aware because if you are not, it's kind of like walking through life with a blindfold on, yelling at the whole world that they are blind. Now I want to get more into this, but I know I'm going to get off topic and off subject. So look for about next week. I'm probably going to drop a podcast just to get my full idea out there. But I want to leave you guys with this. The way to truly be self-aware is you got to ask yourself, how is society using me? And how am I using society? Or how are people using me? And how am I using people? But you got to be critical of yourself. Do not give yourself a pat on the back. Kind of like how some CEOs or people that work at corporations say, I give people employment. You give people employment at minimum wage. You're using cheap labor to help grow your company. Be honest with yourself. Be as brutally honest with yourself as you would be to someone like that. And then you start to figure out where you fit inside of this world, how society perceives you. And the truth of the matter is, it might be painful. You might not like the answer, but this is the beautiful thing about life, is that that's where change comes. If you do not like the answer, you can change it. Change little aspects about your life. But if you do like the answer, then God bless you, you're content.
We take the cash, we cash the check, we show them what they want to see.
So I said in the intro of this video that I watched this movie once and only once. And the reason is because when me and my girl were watching this movie, the second that infamous scene was over, we had guests come over. And we sat with that scene and the ramifications of that scene imprinted in our memory for a full hour. To when we finally started the movie up again, even when Nomi kicks Andrew Carver's ass, that still wasn't satisfying enough. So whenever I think of this movie, I think of that scene. And so the reason is that I don't want to watch this movie anymore because of that. But the one thing that stood out to me was that when Nomi wakes up Molly from her coma and tells her, I kicked Andrew Carver's ass, she leaves her alone in the freaking hospital.
I love you.
Now I pray that you never have a friend that goes through this. But if you do, and I pray to God that you don't, because this is something that really does irk me, do not freaking leave them. Do you realize that Molly is going to have PTSD? She's going to have suicidal thoughts. Think about this. She really doesn't have that many friends in her life. She has Nomi, and the last time she opened up to someone that she thought she could trust ended up raping her. So Molly's going to go home, see all the posters of Andrew Carver. I don't even know if Nomi took him down. If she was a good friend, she would have took him down and burned him. But she is not going to open up to anyone else. She's not going to want to develop a relationship with anyone else because the last person she did hurt her. Nomi took the only relationship she had away, so Molly is completely 100% by herself. When the end of the movie happened and Nomi got in the truck, I wasn't even worried about her. When I saw the credits roll up, the whole time I kept on thinking, what about Molly? Now, I know that you guys are smarter than this, and I know you guys would never leave your friends in this case. But it was something that I noticed in the movie. It hit a core inside of me, so I wanted to point this out to you guys. Never leave your friends in a time of need. Let me ask you a question. Because you saw a bear on TV, would you be so quick if you saw a bear in real life to run up and take a picture with it? Technically, I should actually rephrase that because so many people have actually done that before. Okay, so let me put to you guys like this. Would you be so quick to put your baby in the arms of a stranger? Chances are, probably not. And I'm also pretty sure there's some of your own family members you probably don't even trust with your own baby. So why would you put your baby in the arms of a stranger just because you saw them on TV? You see, this movie is a cautionary tale about the dangers of Hollywood and show business, but the one thing it also shows is just because someone is famous doesn't mean that they're a nice person. And what trips me out is that a lot of people still don't understand that those type of famous people, you know which one, the ones that are really high up there, they play by an entirely different set of rules than the rules you and me play by. It's natural for their morals to falter when the punishment for them wouldn't be as harsh as it would be for someone like you and me. Like, realistically, think about this. If you had beef with someone at your work and you went down there with a group of friends ready to jump them, you throw a dolly at their car, you get arrested, but you basically have a get out of jail free card because you're rich, and then you go back to your job, get a promotion, and get the opportunity to take away the person's job that you just tried to jump. Like, ow! Now, I'm not saying that every single celebrity is bad. Heck, if I saw The Rock, I definitely want a picture with them. But the problem is that we hold these celebrities up to such a high standard that it ends up being detrimental to us. Because let's be real, we've all been duped before in believing that someone was a nice, wholesome person only to find out the complete opposite is true. Now, the problem with this is that I could preach this until I'm blue in the face, and many others before me have preached this until they're blue in the face. The problem is that those lights that those celebrities stand in front of are so bright that it will always blind people's judgment. They're a human being, just like you and me. They're capable of great things, but they're also capable of great violence. Treat them as a stranger. Don't be so quick to put your guard down. Don't be so quick to idolize them, because this is the other problem too. No, they may have not done something to you, but when a reputation comes out, you hold them up to such a high standard that it ends up tearing you apart when you find out what they really did. So in my last video, I talked about The Greatest Showman, and I had a small segment talking about CEOs and why they aren't exactly the nicest people, but I ended it by saying a lot of times that line could get blurred between what is business and what is ethical. Now, it's no secret that people in this life sell themselves to get in the top 1% of anything, to become successful or for fame or notoriety. A lot of people forget this movie, Naomi could have accomplished every single thing that she ever wanted if she would have kept her head down, did what was asked of her, and set her morals aside. Now, the thing about living your life like this is it works. It truly does work. A lot of people forget that the reason why Harvey Weinstein was in power as long as he was because there were people that said yes to his advancements. There were people that supported him. When you look at certain companies, and I don't really got to name one, you guys already know this, there are a lot out there that participate in very shady business in order to get their company where it needs to be. Not to mention all the kids on the internet that are doing stupid things that are detrimental to their character in order to get likes, in order to get followers. Now, we can judge these people all day, every day, but I want to bring this back to you because the question is, what would you sell? I can already hear a lot of people telling me, well, I wouldn't sell anything for fame and fortune and notoriety. But you do sell something. Because every single time that you do something that is detrimental to your character, detrimental to your integrity, you are giving up a piece of yourself. Imagine when you are born, you have a stack of marbles, and every single time that you screw someone over at work, that you don't help someone that needs help, or you do something because you know in the back of your head no one is going to find out about it, a marble gets taken away. Now, I wish I could tell you that in life you are going to make every single right decision. The truth of the matter is you're not. When we're born this tiny little innocent creature just full of life. But when you die full of sin. You die having corrupted your character. But the question is how much are you willing to take? Have you honestly had an honest conversation with yourself and told yourself, if this opportunity ever arose, if this was presented to me, I would not touch it, because that is the line that I would not cross. Because you see, I think the whole circle of life when it comes to this part of it is, if you can look yourself in the mirror at night If you could still lay your head on your pillow with a clean conscience, then you may have made the right decisions throughout your life.
He said, but name your price in the beginning. If it ever gets more expensive than the price you named, get out of there. Thus, Africa.
What'd you win?
Me.
So I usually like to keep the most important life lesson for the very end, but in this case, I believe all the life lessons I talked about have been important, so I decided to keep the most relevant. Now, I say relevant because I know at one point in everybody's life, they all had these contradicting beliefs, whether the more money you have, the lot easier your life's gonna be, or more money, more problems. But pay attention to Nomi's arc throughout this movie, is that when she has nothing, when she's dead ass broke, are the moments where she's most in control. And for those moments where she's not in control, someone usually gives her a helping hand, or she's a hustler. She finds ways to make things happen. But notice how when she finally gets her finances where they need to be, when she gets her status where it needs to be, is the moment where she is the most helpless. The second her friend Molly is raped, she doesn't know what to do because she does not know how to play the political side when it comes to money. You see, a lot of people believe money is a get out of jail free card. In reality, money is a tool. I can give you all the physical tools in the world, but if you do not know how to change a tire, it doesn't matter. That tire is never going to get changed. There is a big disconnect that people have with money. A lot of people don't realize the more money that you get, you are going to acquire a different set of problems. I remember one time going to a seminar, speaker got up on stage and said, "You think $1 million is a lot of money? Let me tell you this, if you have $1 million and people know you have $1 million, you need a lawyer. That's 10% off." And then he started going down the list. Then you got to worry about employees, then you got to worry about insurance, then you got to worry about inventory. By the end of it, then he's like, then you got to worry about taxes. We live in California, that's 30-40%. So out of $1 million, these are real world numbers here, people. Out of $1 million, you are only taking home maybe 200,000, 300,000, and that is if you're good with your money. Now, I say this because, are you guys aware of that? Chances are, probably not. So when you get money, you acquire a different set of problems. You are dealing with a different type of people that a lot of people don't know how to handle that. They're used to Nomi's way. They're from the streets, they pull out a knife, they puff up their chest, they throw hands. That's the way they handle problems. But have any of you guys ever been to jury duty? It's a totally different type of people with an entirely different set of rules. So take the average middle class parent, for example. Average middle class parent is probably worried about paying rent. They don't want to get evicted. But then maybe you got someone who's a business owner, and then they figure out that there's money leaking somewhere. They got to fix the leak or else it's going to drain the company dry. And they're scared because if they don't fix it in time, investors are going to pull out, or even worse, investors are going to sue them. You see, both different sides of the coin, but both of them are serious problems. So I believe that's the biggest disconnect when it comes to money. Nomi knows how to hustle. She knows how to grind. She knows how to intimidate. But then once she realized that she has to play the political game, the lawyer game, she doesn't know what to do. So she resorts back to what got her there in the first place. So I don't believe more money, more problems. I don't believe the more money you have, the lot easier your life's gonna be. I believe the more money you get, you are gonna deal with a different set of problems. So in conclusion, this movie has some corny dialogue.
I used to love Doggy Chow too.
It's overly acted.
You're to be pissed at me. I'm sorry!
And by the end of it, there's so many boobs that it just ends up looking like the produce section in your supermarket. But if you can get past all of that, I believe this movie is good for a one-time watch. And the reason is because the life lessons in this movie are very harsh. They're the life lessons that everybody needs to be aware of. You can't shy away from it. But the only thing I would recommend is make sure no one is coming to your house when you're watching this movie. Watch it by yourself or with your partner that you absolutely trust. So that is my final thoughts for this movie. If you guys like this video, please give me a like, please give me a subscribe. And remember guys, not all movies were meant to entertain us. Some were made to teach us. So until next time, I'm Christian Gonzalez, and thank you guys for watching.